So back in January 2025, I had the urge to finally grow a pair and submit an entry to the Silent Manga Audition, which I did end up successfully making the deadline, but it was done so long ago that I just forgot to make a video on it. Okay, so for the uninitiated, if you ever wanted to become a manga artist and needed something to kick your butt into gear, joining a contest is one of the best ways to work with a prompt and have potential editors look over your work. Now, one of the more well-known contests is called the Silent Manga Audition, which does run a couple times throughout the year. The rules are simple. Each round has a central theme to follow, and then you're to create a silent manga. And with that said, your entry is required to have 17 pages or less, formatted for B4 or A4 size paper. Both digital and traditional entries are okay, and no dialogue allowed. And the theme for my round was, drumroll please, Siege with Rage. Now don't worry, after I briefly go over all the steps I went into putting together this manga entry, I will show you the entire story from start to finish. So with that said, we got to get a move on. Usually the game plan for this step is to read other mangas or watch a TV show to take inspiration. By the time the theme was released, I for some reason was having a fascination in watching butcher videos at the time. Like, I think I saw a man at the local supermarket with a bloody apron, and then I was just thinking to myself what a day-to-day of a butcher was like, and then I ended up just looking up butcher videos on YouTube. Disclaimer, butchering meat for consumption, not butchering humans, if that wasn't clear. Anyway, the key to creating a manga without any dialogue is to not make the story super complicated or else it just wouldn't be readable. So I had to make sure my story idea was simple enough, but somehow got the butcher theme tied into the rage theme. Which I think I managed to do, but it's probably better if I showed you the finished manga at the end instead of just rambling you guys into oblivion. Done. Okay, real quick. In the manga world, the thumbnail stage is actually called the Nemu stage, and it's basically the planning stage to decide on panel layout, character staging, and overall pacing. Now, we ain't about to go dive into the project without a bit of planning, so this stage is extremely crucial to the process. So, I created many pages of noodly sketches in an attempt to pace out all the panels. Sometimes for me, thumbnail stage takes 5 tries before I land on a draft that I'm happy with, but your mileage may vary. But even before that pen hits the sketchbook, I actually like to take the draft of the story that I wrote earlier and then try to split the story point into page numbers. This is just to see at a high level how much I wanted to shove into each page and also to check that I am under the page limit. And yeah, it checked out. It looks like I thumbnailed all 13 of the pages, which is well under the 17 page requirement, so all good to go. This is now another mountain to climb, turning the chicken scratch into a sketch. Now, I personally like to do my sketches on Procreate so that editing and cleaning up the lines are a lot easier. I've already decided from the beginning that I wanted to draw this entire manga on paper, just because I like to make things harder for myself, but also to feel more like a manga artist. So while I am doing the sketches digitally, I will print the sketches out and then transfer them to the actual manga paper and then ink the final draft from there. But let's not get ahead of ourselves here and just focus on the sketch stage for now. So this is the part when I'll need to use 99 of my brain capacity to translate these sketches onto a cleaner draft here on Procreate. I do the noodle sketches just to make sure the pages are set up correctly and to mark the general placement. And then I go over each sketch by slowly refining each panel. Sometimes I use tools such as 3D models from both Clip Studio Paint or Google SketchUp, generally to help with drawing in the background or drawing objects that I'm not familiar with, like the hanging meats in those butcher closets. I wanted the draft to not be perfect, but to at least be as nice as possible so that I can proceed to the inking stage on autopilot. And then we just rinse and repeat with cleaning up and refining until the draft is completed, or until we end up in a mental hospital. Whee! So to truly get that manga making experience, I had the zesty idea to get this all done on paper. You saw me printing the pages from earlier, so that printed copy will act as an undersketch layer. What we are going to do now is staple the printed copy onto the manga manuscript paper here, and then bring in my handy dandy light box, and then we ink away. If you're new to the channel here, I usually use the Deleter brand manga manuscript paper for all of my ink and marker drawing, and then I ink with a G pen and then dip it in black cartoonist ink. The inking stage is super straightforward since the framework and the lines have already been squared away during the sketch phase, but what I didn't draw were any of the shadows and shading details. So it's a great time to also admit that my drawing style is usually super simplified, so the idea of adding in more details with ink on paper was just wild to me. As you can see from the video here, I'm just carefully going over the lines with the G pen. If there are any minor line art mistakes, I go over them with whiteout, and smaller mistakes can be fixed by a small white gel pen. Now the time spent on each page was dependent on the amount of panels and whether or not the panels had a background. So a page like this took me around 5 hours to ink from beginning to end, whereas a page like this one only took a good 30 minutes. For the sake of the video's length, the inking stage is super abridged here, but I did upload a real-time manga inking of this exact manga in my channel last year, so if you want to see it with some relaxing music in the background, I've linked both videos in the description below. Now throughout this video so far, you probably thought this was a well thought out and planned process altogether. Nope, that could not be further from the truth. In true apple and tangerine fashion, I actually procrastinated the beginning of this entry around 3 weeks before the deadline. I was actually scrambling and ended up pulling so many late nights trying to make this manga by the deadline. Maybe passing out while in the middle of inking a manga page is the actual true mangaka spirit. Oh wait, you thought inking was the final step? Oh, you're so wrong, buddy. Now the best part of doing art traditionally is having that pen hit the paper and it makes that nice little scratchy noises like ASMR. But then in turn, the worst part is scanning and editing the pages, which tacks on an additional couple of hours to the process, which is not ideal considering I was racing to the deadline at this point. So after scanning this baby on my ancient Canon scanner, I uploaded the pages onto Clip Studio Paint, and then I cleaned up any mistake and then converted the pages to grayscale. And after a couple of hours of catching mistakes left and right, the entry is submitted. So you know what that means? We will now be briefly going over each completed manga page that I've done for this contest. So here's the final reveal of my Silent Manga Audition entry. This extra part here is a bit self-indulgent on my part, but I also wanted to show the comparison between the thumbnail, sketch, and the final version of some of the pages. It's truly amazing what a couple of energy drink, a pen, paper, and a dream can make. Also, you can now go on the official Silent Manga Audition website and search the previous entries. So here my name actually doesn't come up when you type in my author's name on the search bar, which is Apple and Tangerine. because I guess there are just so many titles with those keywords. But if you type in my comic's name, which is called Stray, voila! My manga entry has been immortalized on the website. Now, since this contest was from last year, you all must be asking the $1,000,000 question. Did you win, son? Nah. So after all of those days cranking out pages and clocking in all of those hours, my entry didn't even place in the contest. Not even an honorable mention. But the contest did give every entry a comment. And with that, I was left with the #1 most valuable feedback in my entire life. Get good. Thanks for watching me whip out this silent manga out of my ass. Rewatching all of this footage makes me want to go take a nice nap. Since this entry was from over a year ago, maybe I'll join another round in the future. Or not. Hope to see you all in the next one. Keep drawing, and I wish you all an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye!